Can you describe, in your own way, in your own words, what it felt like to mess around with something that for someone has a certain historical value or a archival museum value, and for you was just sources to cut up and make new stuff out of?
It's very different for us because we're always, for us, we were doing exactly the same process as we always do. We're always collaging material, image-based material, and some text as well, which the archive material also had. But this was very different to what we usually use.
Because as well, we usually, to begin with, it was usually always newspaper, because it was readily available.
From the signing this paper and agreement, we were officially allowed to vandalize all these amazing things that we were given to, and I think it felt really, really important, because previously we just, somebody brought some old magazines and okay, let's just cut it out. And this was very special, especially after we visited a museum and the smell of the museum, all these beautiful things, and we could see that it's very important, very valued, and we just came there as this group of 4 creative vandals, they're gonna make something cool of it, and I hope we did.
How did you go about creating a situation where the engagement of others then produced the actual work? Because you describe very well the feeling of being at the source of this material, you take it in, then how did you work out how to go about making it into what it became?
So what we did was we created a space in the university, and we invited, I think, pretty much all fine art students and tutors to come and just share this experience with us and we spent 2 days, was it 2 days? Yeah, we spent 2 days in the space with just loads of printouts of the archive material and just invited people to come and make whatever they want with it, pretty much.
Yeah, we had one of the walls covered in each image, the recreations of the image, printouts, so that people had all the material in front of them at the same time, so you could see the individual characters, because some of them were crazy, and then we had piles of material that people could cut up, and at the same time as that, I think what also informed people as well as those images is we took the opportunity while we had the space to kind of exhibit all the pages from past Darkos that were done. Very different, well, not very different, still collage and a little bit of other things and drawing, but from a whole host of different material. And I think the contrast between that and that kind of showed the method of how to create, but then the restriction was very much on you're only allowed to use what you find on these music sheet covers, nothing else, because before it was a collage and you could use things from different sources. So this one it was very strict on your own. You could add text and drawing, but only collage with the materials there, not add anything to it.
I think people responded a lot to the humour in some of the images, and also the kind of strange, kind of antiquated colonial kind of imagery that was in a lot of them, and I think people felt like there was a lot to play with there.
It was a good experience to collaborate with different artists and not just dancers. It was very beneficial.
I have worked with a couple of choreographers earlier, but this was so interesting and different. In the sense we had to think about lots of things in terms of composition and inspirations. Like we had to choose a piece of music from a collection of pictures from MoDA. Yeah, so that's where everything started. So I chose one picture and then I started the process of composition.
Yeah, so the images related to the music also, and from the images I created movements, and then we met again and adapted the music.
Yeah, we had lots of communications and meetings, and I explained her about my thoughts on how I adapted that music. I chose a waltz by Ernest Bucalossi, yeah, and rearranged it. So yeah, that was, I hope that helped Melissa.
The choreography had to be adapted to the space, but it made it more interesting and also more challenging because you have a material, but then you put it in a space and it just transforms into something else. Yes.
And she's Kenin were playing live, weren't she?
Yeah, we had lots of interesting advantages and disadvantages. I mean, like challenges, I could say. For example, we practiced as an ensemble in one place. Then, since the space was small and we had to adapt the dancers and the audience in one space, I had to let the musicians to get scattered in different places, and I was conducting, so they all have to look at me, and it was really interesting and such a great experience I had. And the acoustics were so fantastic too.
I don't know whether it was an intention or not, and it probably wasn't, but at the venue, the way that all the different performances were split up into different rooms, it felt very collage-esque, and that was on that, you know, the images that we'd done were collage, and it felt that actually the way the performance worked in the different rooms almost were a performative collage that created a whole in the end.